7 viral marketing campaigns for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs and small businesses often wrestle with how to get more exposure, more leads, more sales without having a big budget to be able to do it. It's sort of that age-old problem of we need to be able to get more customers to generate more sales so we have more revenue and money to put into advertising and promotion. And so it becomes sort of a chicken and the egg problem. But unfortunately, we have to find a way to get it started. Otherwise, we never get to the point where we're able to generate enough sales to be able to reinvest in advertising and growth. Now, thankfully, we don't have to invest big bucks in ads or major promotions if we get creative instead. So the advantage that we have as a small player, as a small business, a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, is that while we don't have a giant budget, while we don't have an outsourced ad team, what we do have is agility. What we do have is the ability to be nimble and to be able to create a real connection with our audience and our customer because we're not as far removed from them. With a big company, there's many layers, there's lots of different people. It's difficult for anybody in positions of authority there to really get that close to the customer and really sort of build that brand in ways other than through big ads. Whereas if we're a smaller player, we can do that much more effectively because we can be on the ground and we can be doing these things all the time. And that helps us build stronger relationships and more trust with our audience and our customers. So there are limitless ways to engage our audience if we just take the time to think differently and get creative. Instead of being stuck in sort of the silo thinking of we need to be able to run ads or we have to do promotions or whatever, there are a lot of different ways that we can actually engage our audience, engage our target market, engage other people, in addition to doing clever things on our own that not only help build their brand and get more customers, but also create a sense of fun and a sense of community and other things like that. So let's talk about 7 ways that are more clever than well-funded in order to get our message, our promotions, and our products and services out to the market. The first one is with micro-influencer partnerships. Now, everyone at this point is aware of the idea of going to an influencer and having them promote your product or service or brand. And everybody knows that it is an effective way. If you find someone whose audience is aligned, whose values are aligned with what you're standing for your company, your business, your brand, then it makes logical sense because if they start to promote you, their relationship with their audience is the thing that gives you the credibility by association. So that's great. The problem is if it's any well-known influencer, those rates are going to be just as high, if not worse, than trying to buy real ads. So it's impossible to go to somebody who's a household name and expect them to be able to, on a shoestring budget, be able to get a promotion. However, there are a lot of tiers of influencers. Not everybody is at the top. Not everybody is the ones that we see in the news or on TV or the ones with millions and millions of followers. They may be a little bit smaller, but nichier. And in that way, we can actually niche down into what it is that we're doing and find the exact audience we're looking for. And those people are going to be very happy to work with us at a much lower rate because they don't get the same level of sponsors and the same level of brands coming to them yet. And so if we go and we collaborate with niche micro-influencers and we find all the influencers in whatever niche that we're in, we can get them to subtly promote our products or services through their content, and we can do that on a much, much cheaper basis. And if they have a really good connection with that audience and the audience is really well aligned, that's a great way to be able to bring in a lot of additional people. And then hopefully as they grow, we're able to maintain that relationship as well. And we may be able to grow and scale with it too. And because we have a relationship, we might actually get preferential terms. So there's a lot of benefits to that. But it allows us to reach a targeted audience authentically without the overt advertising and without, in general, as large a spend. When we spend money on advertising, no matter how good the targeting is, there's always going to be a decent percentage of the people that we're reaching that aren't really potential customers for us for one reason or another. If we deal with somebody who has a sort of captive audience that follows them and we know all the demographics for that, it's much easier to identify whether or not this is a, sort of a target-rich environment for what we want, or whether it's not really that well related and connected. Second thing that we can do is we can use user-generated content campaigns. This is great for people who are overwhelmed and overworked already, because the idea of trying to do content marketing, most people get the idea. I create content that's within a niche that serves a purpose and provides value, and then in return for that, what I'm able to do is generate a following that magnetizes to me, and then I can eventually sell them my products and services. Well, if we don't have a lot of time already and we're already overwhelmed, that makes it doubly hard to create content that's good. Then instead we might be pushing out bad content, which defeats the purpose, or just unable to do it on a consistent enough basis to make any traction there. And so if we leverage our customer base for that, assuming we have some customers, we can reach out to the ones and say, listen, if you love our products or services, do us a favor, take photos or videos of you using it and post those. And if you do that, you can give them some incentive for it as long as you disclose that if you choose, or you could just ask them to do it and see if they'll do it. Some might, but if you give them some incentive, like a discount on a new product or advanced access to something or whatever it is, then you incentivize them and it makes it even better for them to want to do it as well. And so a great example of this kind of campaign is when GoPro was doing it with user-submitted adventure footage. Everybody could see the picture of a camera on someone's head. And everybody was like, oh, this is kind of it's a novel idea. But until you could view what the actual footage would look like if you had it yourself, that's what really made it sort of take off with that market. Because once people saw the person flying down the slopes and zigzagging in and out and jumping over jumps and everything else, and you see all that on this high resolution video, you're like, wow, I want that. I want to be able to capture that for all the stuff that I'm doing. They're kayaking and they're capturing everything, and they don't need to hold a camera or fumble with it. It was an ingenious method to market, because also people are excited to share that kind of footage. So it went hand in hand. They wanted to share it because they would love to have the publicity and show off what they're doing. And the company wants it because it shows demonstrated use cases of their particular product, how you can get value out of it, and what it can actually do for you. So that social proof expands your reach organically, because what happens is people are not only engaged in doing it, and then it becomes almost like a contest. Somebody sees somebody did a cool video, they're like, well, I'm going to go do, and then they do one. And as they start to create more and more, that creates a groundswell that gets more people to do it. They're having fun while they're doing it. So they're associating all these positive things with your brand, your products, and your services, and at the same time creating tons of free content for you to use in your marketing. Now, obviously, it depends what your product or service is. Some of these methods will work better or not as well, depending on what your product and services are, but they're all ideas to get the juices flowing to figure out how we can sort of think creatively here to make this work for us. The third thing that we could do is we could do humorous social media challenges. If the key with this is it has to be fun and shareable and simple. Because if we create something that we want it to go viral on social media, but it's overwhelming, or it's complicated, or it's difficult to learn, or it doesn't seem like it's a lot of fun, there's no excitement when you're seeing videos of people doing it, it's going to be hard for that to take off. If we can find something that's a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging, and something that people naturally would want to share after they've done it, now we're really on to something. One of the funny early examples of this is, it's not exactly a challenge, but you saw sort of animal videos being posted online. And what would happen is you'd have a cat, and the cat does, X, Y, or Z. And then somebody else would post one because they were like, oh, well, my cat did. And so it became this thing where everybody started posting the same kind of thing. If we can relate this back to our product and we can make it a challenge, so there's actually something fun in it for the person, and it's related to our business, then we're on to something that can spread virally. The classic example of this is the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Everybody would take a bucket of ice and dump it over their head to raise awareness for ALS. And it went crazy. It was so simple to do. All you really needed to do was be outside somewhere so you didn't get the floor all wet, and you need a bucket of ice. You dump it over your head, you take a video, and it was the reaction that people had that made it go viral, because you saw the shock when the cold, water and ice hit them over the head, and then the laughing afterward. So it creates this positive vibe while it's generating awareness at the same time. And so that then gets other people to challenge other people to do it. Because it's a challenge, and that word or that idea that it's a challenge, not just an activity, is really important because it's gamification. And what that does is it gets people to challenge everybody else. They do it, and then they reach out to the people they know and they say, I dare you to do it. Well, they don't want to be shown up, so then they do it. And through this whole process, there were all these celebrities doing it. Then you had all these like TV and media people doing it, and it went absolutely exploded because it was for a great cause, and it was something that was fun, quick, easy, memorable, and something that had an emotional element attached to it to get people to spread it virally. So that can generate buzz and engagement around your brand super fast and in a really effective way, because not only is it buzz and awareness, but it's positive vibes. And ultimately, we all want that. We all want our brand to be associated with something positive in the general market, in our public, in our target market, and also among our prospects and customers. The fourth thing we could do that's kind of a stealthy, cool little thing, and I actually really like this idea, is we can do a behind the scenes content, sort of pull back the curtain on what we're doing. Followers and people that buy into us, our brands, our products, our services, they always want to know more. They always want more information. There's a reason when they run specials on TV about, the inside story about this sitcom, or, the background, the untold story of this, celebrity or whatever, that everybody tunes in because we're fascinated. We want to know, where did somebody else come from? How did they get to where they are? How does this whole, sausage making process work? To coin a phrase. And so if we pull back the curtain, so instead of just seeing our curated content, our advertising, our promotions and everything else, they can actually see what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, or, not maybe every day, but they get sort of a walk around where someone follows us around with a camera in terms of what we do all day, every day. And we give followers an inside look at our business operations. That really goes a long way to create extra buzz. Or it could be through the creative process. Obviously, we don't want to share anything that's proprietary or anything that other people could use and then, kill our competitive advantage. But anything that's just fun, entertaining, and we might think it's boring. Look, following me around all day, but there are literally YouTube channels that all they are is a video camera following someone around, a very ordinary person all day long. And they get tons of views. People are fascinated. I remember when I was a kid, there were peregrine falcons that had built a nest in, I think it was our state capitol building in Connecticut, but it was some high-rise building. And somebody took note that there was this nest there. And this is long before the days of streaming and all this other stuff. This was only live TV and programmatic TV. So you had to tune on your TV. There was no internet or any of that other stuff. And what they did was, there was so much interest in this nest of falcons that they literally put a camera on it and they put it on a local TV channel. And all the channel had 24 hours a day is a picture of this nest. You could see the birds wake up, you could see them fly out, you could see them fly back, you could see them lay the eggs, you could see them feed the baby birds. It literally was a channel, a TV channel, designed to look at birds in a nest. And tons of people watched it. Everybody talked about it. And this is before the days of going viral or the internet. So the idea is, even though we might think it's boring because we do it on a daily basis, the fact is our audience doesn't. They're fascinated. They want to know what's going on. So we can do short videos, we can do live streams, we can do any of these other things. A colleague of mine that used to do product launches in the software space, and now he's sort of gone on and he runs just one brand, but when he used to do launches, well, he was the first guy to actually figure this kind of thing out. And what he did is, leading up to a launch, everybody wanted to know, because launches used to be really big events. So everybody wanted to know sort of what goes on leading up to a launch. So what he decided to do is, I think it was 2 hours or an hour before the actual launch went live, he had installed webcams in his office and he turned them all on and put them on streaming. So if you went to his website, you could literally see the guys walking around the office, talking, getting stuff ready. And it was fascinating. There was no audio, but you could see them all doing this and hustling around and getting ready. And for some odd reason, it built extra buzz. People were fascinated by it. They'd tune in, they'd watch it, they wanted to know what's going on, what's leading up to this launch, and what are they going to do to make this successful. So when people do that, it builds a connection and it builds curiosity. And it's something that ultimately can be done for a very, very cheap bootstrap budget, and yet can be fascinating. Draw people in, let them know that, we have open arms and that we are open and approachable, and we want this to be a relationship with them. And that goes a long way in terms of making customers feel like they're part of it. The fifth thing we can do is clever product demonstrations. If we have something that can fit this, we can showcase our offering in unexpected or entertaining ways. So if there's a way that, one of the things, and this wasn't an advertisement for anything, but I remember when my brother was in college, one of the things that they did that was always a big event is they had this thing called the tube toss. And they had one tall building on campus. And what they did is they set up a thing down at the bottom to protect everybody. And they made it like a cordoned in area. And if you had an old TV, these old big transistor TVs, you could climb up to the roof. And on this certain day, certain time, you were allowed to throw your TV off and everybody could watch it come down and crash and explode on the ground. And that's basically the way that they did it. And it drew this gigantic crowd because it was fascinating. And it was kind of dumb. I mean, people were just getting rid of junk TVs. But the idea was it created this excitement. So another example of this is Blendtec does the Will It Blend series. So if you sell a blender, what better way to showcase your blender than trying to blend unusual items and see if it'll actually work? It highlights the product capabilities, and it's very highly shareable because people are fascinated. Oh my God, look at what they just tried to blend up together. They put the stuff in there and it worked. Another great example of this, even though it was done in an advertisement, was the old, what was it called? The Ginsu knives. What they used to do is show you these super knives that you could buy, and they were really sharp, and they maintained their sharpness no matter what you did with them. So they'd cut through a metal pipe, and then they'd cut through a tomato, and it would cut it both perfectly. And you were like, wow, it's amazing. But sort of the juxtaposition of cutting through the metal pipe, nobody even associates it with that, because who's going to use a kitchen knife to do that? But it was a super effective campaign because it showed you the versatility of this tool. It could cut something really hard and difficult to cut, and then it could cut the most delicate thing and do it seamlessly, perfectly, without any extra pressure on the knife. So if there's a way that we could showcase our product in fun and cool ways, that's a great thing to do too. A sixth thing we could do is a mysterious teaser campaign. We could build anticipation and curiosity by launching a mysterious teaser campaign where we drop cryptic clues or puzzles across various platforms that hint at an upcoming product or service launch. And so iPhone, Apple, Android, they're famous for this. They show you sort of the edge of a silhouetted screenshot. They show you a close-up, a zoom in of a button, or some kind of feature or something on their new phone or tablet or whatever, and that's it, and then a date, or something like that. And everybody's like, what's that? I got to find out what that thing is. And then they release a little bit more later and a little bit more later, and they build this buzz over time. Now, obviously, they're using advertising campaigns, but we can do the same idea on social media for pennies on the dollar because we don't have to pay anything. Or we could boost those posts and pay a few dollars to get extra traction, but we don't have to run a major advertising campaign to do it. If we engage the followers with it and we encourage them to solve the mystery and share their theories, now we create a buzz around it. We got people commenting back and forth. I think this is what it is. No, there's no way that's that. This is what TV series have figured out. This is why they start dropping hints about the new season of all your TV series months in advance. They want the buzz. They want everybody jumping in and speculating. They show you a little teaser clip, so you're all thinking, oh, what's going to happen in the next season? Everyone's talking about it, so when it comes out, it explodes. This approach works really well for any kind of creative industry or unique product launch in particular. And the seventh thing we can do is we can start an open-ended story on social media and invite followers to continue it. We write a story together. Each day we post the next installment based on audience suggestions. It creates an interactive, evolving narrative that keeps people engaged. It keeps them eager to participate. They want to know if their ideas are going to be used. They want to know how creative it's going to be. You can subtly weave elements related to your brand or industry into the story. And you can tell morals and other things that circle back to it. This technique works really well for people like writers, coaches, or any solopreneur whose business revolves around creativity or personal development in particular. The key is to create content that resonates. It has to resonate emotionally, whether that's through humor, inspiration, or usefulness. Those are the things that make things go viral. Focus on providing value and fostering genuine connections rather than pushing for immediate sales. And with creativity and an understanding of our audience, even solopreneurs can craft campaigns with viral potential. So the takeaway here is that while it would be great to have an unlimited promotion and advertising budget, right? It's not a reality for most businesses and entrepreneurs. But there is a silver lining because instead, we can use our creativity and foster a connection with our market and our customers to grow organically. That ultimately costs us less for sure, but it also creates a stronger bond with our customers, which ultimately is vital for long-term success.